when I think, novice that I am, of makeup artists, I don't necessarily think of image curation. How did that occur for you? Was that within the lane of the path, or was that an alternate route where you took a detour that led you back into the path, which made it a little bit wider, or no, which made it a little bit narrower, more narrow, so you can begin to really dial into this image curation?
Build $1 million legacies with
Hey,
purpose.
hello, friends and family, associates, Facebook family. I am Dr. Marnita, on fire with P3 Purposepreneur. And as y'all already know, I make it a point to look for people who have found their purpose and are walking it out in real time and creating such value for other people and helping changing lives with their purpose. And so today, I am so honored to have a very, very good friend of mine as our guest today. Her name is Natalia Barlow, and I have been knowing Natalia for about half a decade. I'm assuming right about now.
Feels like.
Listen, every time we get together, I just so enjoy the insight she gives. I think the reciprocity of what we get out of
Yes.
our conversation is second to none other. Let me tell you, this girl, she has done so much with not only her world, but she is such a force and an impact in so many other people's world, which is why I titled this conversation, Creating Lasting Change Through Image Curation. I
Yes.
just like, before we even started this live, she was telling me some things that was going on in her world. And I had just written this title out before she even shared that. I'm like, and I'm looking at it and she's talking and I'm looking at it, she's talking. I'm like, that's perfect. That's how we roll though. So
Yeah.
I would like to bring to you today, Natalia Barlow. And Natalia, I want you to start, if you would do us a favor, start this conversation off for us today by sharing with us, what is it that you do?
I support people in their desire to be their highest self and to express from an alignment with that version of themselves. So I support people in living life unapologetically, to owning what they desire for themselves and allowing themselves to exist without apology. And I do this through image curation. I do this in the ability to sit down and have a conversation to talk about, why do you express in the way that you express? Let's trace that expression to its root. Let's uproot weeds of how your relationships with people, your understanding of society, how all of those things have shaped the way you've shown up. And let's get honest and truthful with what is you. And then let's work our way back up. So that way, when you're expressing, you don't identify with the expression itself. The expression is just a byproduct of you being you and owning that. That's what I do.
I think that's amazing. And I think you've really lived into that, not only for
Absolutely.
yourself, but you have really helped other people's become aware of their true authenticity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do me a favor and go back in time a little bit? Because that didn't happen overnight.
Whew. I was like, wait.
Let's go back in our time capsule just a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
And can you share with our audience, because purpose, for often for a lot of people, it's not easy to put our finger on it.
Right.
But oftentimes, there are some people who they know their focus and their intention for the reason for creating a thing immediately.
Yeah.
When did that happen for you?
You know what's interesting about purpose, and this is a recent revelation of mine, is that oftentimes when we think about purpose, we're trying to think about like on a spiritual level, like why am I here? And I think that that's a question that we may have all of our life, but a more productive question is to just rest and understand our naturalness. Like if we were left alone on an island with no one to tell us what to do or how to be, how would we engage with what's around us? And that naturalness tells you what your usefulness is without you having to like actively try to do something or actively try to be something. So with me, it's always been natural to me to create. Like if you put me on an island, I'm going to be the person who finds a way to make the tree a house, finds a way to get food, find a way to do it in a way that it just naturally clicks for me to take these pieces and put them together and make it something else. That is just so natural to me. So when it comes to purpose, my purpose is to exist in my creativity and to express my creativity as much as possible. Because what comes from that is the image curation framework that I've built. What comes from that is my ability to apply makeup on any person, whether it's special effects or natural, what my ability to be in a garden and create food, my ability to be in a kitchen and bake bread and make delicious meals, like me existing in my creativity. That's my purpose. That's my intent. And my expression, of course, aligns with my desire to create and to exist in a colorful way. So if we focus more on purpose being what's natural to you and how can you lean into your naturalness and the world benefits as a byproduct, I think we'd be more satisfied, content with ourselves, and also exist in less judgment of ourselves.
That's good because I know for sure that we were intentionally created to do three things.
Mm.
One, to be creative. Two, to be connected. And three, to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
So like back in your like younger day, I read that you majored in communication sciences. And
Mm-hmm.
y'all can tell she's an amazing speaker, right? And so prior to that, did you like we all have this inherent gift of being creative.
Mm.
So is there something that made you have a heightened awareness of what that was for you? Because you just mentioned various vehicles that you have the ability to be creative in.
Yes.
Do you remember when that switch flipped for you? Like, I'm good at this, no matter what
Oh,
I
the
do.
awareness of it.
The awareness of it, yes.
So the beauty of it is when we exist in our naturalness, others are more aware of it than we are.
Mm,
And for me, it was someone else seeing it in me and saying, hey, I think you can do this thing. You should do this thing. So if I think about it in regards to makeup artistry, I was just a person express. Remember, I, in my naturalness, am a creative. So it is my responsibility to express. So in my naturalness, when YouTube was prior to it having the partnerships and people making money, when YouTube was just a way for people to connect, I was on YouTube expressing how I loved makeup and playing around with it and color and all of those things. And eventually I became known as the makeup girl, where in the circles people would ask me questions, but I'm not thinking anything of it. It's just a fun thing that I want to share with people. And then the person came up to me and was like, hey, I'm getting married. Can you do my makeup for my wedding? Now, mind you, one of the people I learned from on YouTube was a professional makeup artist who did makeup for Vogue and all of those things. But I didn't learn from her thinking that I wanted to be her. I learned from her because the way my mind works, I'm a fundamentalist. Like I need to know the bare bones of how this thing works, and that's how she taught. So when this person reached out to me, I was like, oh, you see me as a makeup artist? You think that I can do that thing that I saw this person who I learned from do? Okay, well, I never thought of it, But because you believe in me, I'm going to lean into your belief of me. And I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if the shoe fits. And it did. And for 12 years, I was a makeup artist. So for me, when it comes to a switch, it wasn't necessarily something that I realized in myself, because I've always been inquisitive. I've always been a student. I've always wanted to learn and pass on knowledge. That's just very natural to me. But when it comes in the way that I package myself, it's often that someone else sees it in me. But the one time that I will say that it shifted where I decided different was with image curation. But that was because someone else had to say yes to makeup artistry that led me on the path to where I am today.
That's interesting. I was talking about the path to
Yeah.
someone else today. Actually, I did it probably in a live because the path always have alternate routes, right?
Yes.
So I think that's so good. So for you, when I think novice that I am of makeup artists, I don't necessarily think of image curation. How did that occur for you? Was that within the lane of the path, or was that an alternate route where you took a detour that led you back into the path, which made it a little bit wider, or no, which made it a little bit narrower, more narrow, so you can begin to really dial into this image curation?
That is an excellent question. I don't think you could have asked it any better, because as you were saying it, like, I'm a creative. So if anyone's watching this, you see my eyes wandering. I'm a visual person. So I see words. So as she was saying that, I'm envisioning how she's framing it. And that was framed perfectly. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because I understand the question. It was absolutely me being on the road and wanting to go a scenic route. Because what happened in let's just back up a little bit, because you did ask about my journey. So in 2018 was when I realized there are things about myself I don't like, and I'm not okay with them existing within me in this way. But I don't know why I'm this way. I don't know. So instead of me continuing to judge myself and have this thing in my head just going nonstop where I can't stop it, I'm going to give space for these thoughts to be put on paper, for me to explore them, for these thoughts to become questions that I ask myself, and allow the answers to come to me. So while I'm on this journey of self-discovery in 2020, the rest of the world, it felt like, was starting to catch up, because everyone had to sit with themselves. And everyone had that time that we often don't give ourselves because we're in that go, go, go mode. They had the time to sit and just like smell themselves a little bit and start asking themselves questions of, why am I this way? And as I applied makeup, people would want to have these conversations. And I've always been a safe space because I'm also a licensed esthetician. So I'm used to people laying down and telling me their life stories, right? But not necessarily in the makeup space. Makeup was always superficial for people up until this point, up until 2020. So then in 2020, the conversation shifted, where people were starting to go beneath the surface and showing me who they truly were. And I knew it was beneath the surface, because I'm just a person who follows a thread. So I ask you a question and you answer it a certain kind of way. I'm listening to your inflections. I'm listening to your tonality. I saw your shoulder move. I see how you're communicating to me in a way that you don't know you're communicating. So when you answer a question, I know, oh, that's something I need to keep following, right? And as I did that with people, it would lead to places where they would often take a deep breath, and then something would come up that has never been shared before. So then when that started to happen regularly, it was like, oh, okay, people are ready to do this thing where whatever they've been pushing down beneath the surface, they just want a safe space for it to come up. So then I was like, well, how can I serve people who are in this position? And it just through conversation of just knowing that this is a question that I have and I'm waiting for the answer to come to me. It took about 3 years for me to get to this place where I'm like, oh, it's people saying, I've been showing up this way. I want to go on the journey by myself, whether it's going to therapy, trying out yoga, doing meditation, whatever it is, where they have the opportunity to sit with themselves, them discovering that I want to give myself this space to do that. And then they're like, well, now that I have an understanding, I want someone who can go down the roots with me and then help me come back up. And I became that person.
That's really good.
Thank you.
My God, that's really dialing in, which you are so good at, as for
Thank
as
you.
long as I've known you, like almost what, half a decade, 5 years. And so
I think 2023 was 3 years. I don't know. That's how I feel like it's been a long time.
no, we met before 2023.
We did, but I'm saying 2023, 2020. 2020 was like 3 years. It was such a long
Oh
year.
yeah, since
So it
2023.
added years to whatever the time was, is what I'm saying. My
Girl,
light is going
yes,
out.
yes. So often we talk, and I want you to tell our audience a little bit about you developed this 5 pillars of authenticity framework.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share what that is in relation to image curation? Can you share with our audience what is that framework, the 5 pillars of authenticity?
The most interesting thing about this is, as my creative mind goes, I notice my light is going out. I'm looking for my second light, trying to make sure that as I answer this question, you can see me clearly. But since you asked the question before I could even make any changes, if the light goes out, I apologize in advance. So the 5 pillars of authenticity is a framework that I created that creates the space to ask the questions, but to compartmentalize what questions need to be asked, right? So, for example, one of the things that I understood about people sharing with me whatever they hid, I noticed a common thread that it was about their energy and not really understanding their energy. So it would be people saying how they do, and they wish they could just rest more, or they wish they could just be in nature more. And over time, I understood that doing is masculine energy, and resting or being in nature, that idea of being present in the moment and just being present, is feminine energy. And there are people out there who are operating more in their masculine, also presenting more in their masculine, but they desire femininity. So that's an example, because one of the 5 pillars is your energy statement and understanding your energy. So each question that I would ask people that ended up creating these 5 common threads is what created the 5 pillars of authenticity. So the 5 pillars of authenticity are what I consider the perks of alignment, the perks of being able to express from a place of alignment. And the P stands for your purpose. The E stands for your energy. The R are your relationships. The C is your communication. And the S is what everyone has known me for prior to image curation, which is your style. And all 5 of these pillars support authentic expression. But you have to understand all 5 and how you need to be supported in order for you to express in a way that aligns on a root level and you feel safe in it. Because people can express however they want to express. But the biggest thing when it comes to confidence is people not feeling safe within themselves, safe out in the world, expressing in that way. So through these pillars, these pillars become like the armor and the understanding that you have of yourself that you can rest in. So that way the expression just becomes a natural byproduct of what you know to be true.
That is really good, which leads me to another question.
Yes.
Which is really good. So before one, you've worked with so many people and impacted so many people's lives. But before one walks into the armor, before they're about to put on the armor, what must be present?
Ooh,
Oh, that is so good. What
I gave myself a new light. I gotta do it. Sorry.
I hear you. What must be in alignment for them to even to consider embracing the armor of the 5 pillars of authenticity? authenticity?
It's perspective. So a person needs to be able to exist in black and white, in color, and black and white plus color. Now, what I mean by that is, in order for you to feel safe in expressing, you have to understand first, why have you expressed in a certain kind of way? And for a lot of people, that is a very colorful thing. That is things that are attached to their childhood, things that are attached in their adulthood, oftentimes painful things. And if a person is not able to view those painful things that are in color, in black and white, which is a logical thing, you won't be able to go on this black, white, and color experience with me, because you may be triggered by one of the other. You may be triggered when I ask you a question that is painful. Your logic may want to attack me when I ask you a question that challenges your logic. But people who are able to see and shift and flow between the perspective of black and white and color, they understand that this is a safe space that I am providing for us to broaden our perspective. This is a non-judgmental space. I am here to listen to you, tell you what I hear, and continue to ask you questions for you to hear yourself. But you have to have the ability to think logically. You have to have the ability to make space for your emotions. And then when you think logically and make space for your emotions, collectively, collaboratively, we can come to a conclusion that serves your highest good.
That's good. So perspective, I like the way you say one needs to start with perspective. And perspective is experiential, is relative, because we all have different experiences. And so if someone is listening to you right now and they haven't had an opportunity to talk or work with you, what is one thing that they need to consider if they want to allow themselves to be in a safe place with themselves?
With themselves or with me?
With themselves before they get to you.
You have to decide if you want to feel at home with yourself.
Ooh, that's good. What does that feel like? I like that.
When I think of home, I think that it is a place that I designed specifically for me to free flow without thought, without judgment, on autopilot.
Because aren't
I'm
we
just
hard on
so
ourselves?
comfortable.
We are so hard on ourselves, right?
We can be,
Yeah.
we can be. Oftentimes it's not even our own fault because, again, a lot of these things are derived in childhood. But as adults, we make decisions. As adults, we decide what we want for ourselves and we make that happen for ourselves. But to be at home with yourself is to feel like that warm blanket when you're cold, to feel like that warm hug when you need to just release some tension, to feel like you can say the most embarrassing thing or what people will perceive to be embarrassing. You can say it to yourself in the mirror and not feel any tension in your body because you accept you. So before a person comes my way, the question they should ask themselves is, do I want to feel at home with myself?
That's
Because
good.
if you do, then coming my way is easy.
That's good. So how does one come your way?
As far as like how they can find me,
Yeah.
or
How do they find you? How do they find, because you're like you're a world traveling image curator. That's what you are. That, like, it's
I
right
am.
here. So whether it's here in the United States or whether it's in another part of the world, how does somebody connect to create the 5 pillars of authenticity with Natalia Barlow?
If a person is ready to be at home with themselves and they've been doing their due diligence to become that for themselves, and they find that, there are some areas that I could use some support. There are some areas where even when I do my best, even when I talk to my therapist, because they have the more black and white version of approaching things. Even when I do all of what I can do, there are just still some areas where a shift in perspective, a balance in perspective is needed. And the process so far has been hard. It's been painful. And I'm ready for the fun part. If a person feels like that, the way that they can connect with me is through my website, www.glowbynataliabarlow.com. Read about what I'm about. See if what I have to offer and what I say on there, if it makes you feel like your heart doesn't have a shield over it, doesn't feel the need to guard itself. If you feel that, I encourage you to fill out an inquiry form. I encourage you to schedule a consultation call with me. I encourage you to have a conversation. And if what I have to share with you in the conversation makes your heart feel like I am safe for you to explore how you can become home for you, then we should work together.
So finish the sentence.
Yes.
I have just completed my first session with Natalia Marlowe. I feel
I have just completed my first session with Natalia Barlow, and I feel excited because the first session is just a deep dive. The first session is a way for me to transition from what I've been doing into the fun part. It's the middle ground of the experience. And I'm excited because I know that next week, we're going to do the fun part. We're going to go shopping. We're going to find the colors that make the 5 pillars of authenticity come alive. We're going to find the clothing. We're going to find all of those things where I can finally begin to express from a place that I've always known was true within me, but I didn't feel safe in doing so. But now I no longer align with just my expression because that's not my identity. My identity is on a root level. So as I identify with myself and accept myself, the expression is so natural. And I am so thankful that I had a guide who didn't judge me and created a safe space for me to explore this. And I'm excited for day 2.
okay, I have another one. That was great.
Yes.
I've completed my first session with Natalia Barlow, and I have become.
Oh man. I that touched me in a heart space.
Mm,
That touched me in a way that we pre-package ourselves to show up on camera and express ourselves. That touched me in a way where that broke the mold for me in a second. So I'm going to answer from the heart space. I've had my first session with Natalia, and you said, and now I become?
and I now have become.
And I now have become capable of being who I've always been and allowing myself to be her or to be him.
That's good. Do you mind one more?
No, I don't mind. Keep going.
Okay. I have had my first session with Natalia, and now I have.
I've completed my first session with Natalia, and now I have a perspective on life that doesn't make me want it to be easy. I have a perspective on life that helps me understand that everything is cyclical. There are seasons, and there's no reason to cling to any of it. There's no reason to not continue pressing forward and accepting myself in the process not judging myself in the process. I now have the ability to shift perspectives and allow myself to experience life for what it is without judgment, and allowing it to be what it is without judgment, because I'm at home with me. And at the end of the day, I return home to me. And that's the happiest place I could be.
That was really good. Thank you for sharing. So as we create lasting change with you,
Mm-hmm.
and you have been on this mission for as long as I've known you, what is the largest sacrifice that you have experienced in the process?
A death of self. I think that, well, continuous deaths of myself. I think that anyone who operates within the space of being a guide for people, you have to accept that you're going to be the one who's challenged the most. Because in those challenges is how you learn. In those challenges is how you gain wisdom. In those challenges is how you connect with others in their lowest places and make space for them in their lowest spaces, because you've experienced it. So I've sacrificed my ability to be naive. I've sacrificed the idea of whatever life I wanted to create just for the sake of creating it, because it works for me. I sacrificed that because I knew that me operating within my naturalness and experiencing life in the way that I'm meant to experience it, it helps the people who I came here to help. And I have to die to self to make sure that that happens, because that's what I came here to do.
Okay, that's good. I think you're helping a lot of people today.
I
And
sure
the
hope
great
so.
part is like it's digital. So I hope y'all have y'all pens and papers out so you can like take some notes on this and rewatch it again and share it if you have to in your messenger. So I like to always end our conversations with 3 questions. The first question is, what is your favorite quote that inspires you when you're not feeling you are operating on your highest level?
Years ago, I don't even know when I created this for myself, but it was words that just kept coming to me, and it rhymes, so it was easy. And every now and then when things get really hard, I'm reminded of these words. And these are words that I created for myself in this way. What I aspire to be inspires me to give my all entirely. So it's just this idea of always aspiring to become more and to give my all to that idea, and just rest in that understanding that that's just who I am. I am a person who aspires for more and gives myself to that idea, knowing that it's possible for me. So that's the quote that I would say.
Okay. Number 2, what is one book that has made a difference as you are living out your purpose?
There is this book that I cannot find. It's the most interesting thing. I feel like it's called Wild at Heart, but every time I found it in 2020, those free libraries on the side of the corner of the streets and things. There was one outside of the studio that I rented at the time, and there was this book called Wild at Heart. I couldn't tell you what was in the book. I couldn't tell you who wrote it, any of those things. And every time I try to find it, I just can't find it. But that book, I do believe, was very transformational to me, because it gave me permission to be wild, to be and by wild, I mean like the naturalness of ourselves. Like if we were to wake up, our hair's on top of our head, our breath stinks, like that whole idea of what natural really is without you trying to put on something for other people. It gave me permission to let go of the box and just exist. And
Gotcha.
from there, I experienced other books. But that book I'm thankful for. I hope I find it so I can recommend it to people. But that book was life-changing for me.
Okay. And thirdly, what tool do you use to continue to elevate and grow what you have been purposed to do?
Self-mastery.
Ooh, that's good.
Self-mastery. Just the idea that if I am aware of my naturalness, it doesn't have to cripple me in any kind of way. I can create space and systems and plan life according to what is natural to me so that I can optimize my output. But that comes through my desire to master myself. I think that's the greatest tool anyone can give themselves.
I like that. Well, oh my God, this conversation has been amazing. When I speak with you, it's almost like a part of me, you give me permission to exist in my natural state, like all the time. Like when I leave, like like you get down to the raw material of who people are. And I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for sharing all that you have, because I think you're amazing and you're still kind of creating and developing, and you have this space that you occupy, and your space is your real estate, and you invite people into your house, your real estate, your space, and it's an amazing place to be because it is judgment free. So I, for one, do thank you for that. And hopefully, and I know, I expect our audience is not going to be the same after they listen to this conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we sign off with our audience as it relates to their identity? Let's leave it there.
Thank you for your kind words. What I would leave with the audience is, if discovering your identity is important to you, one thing you must prioritize and make space for is your ability to be seen. One thing that I can say for you, Dr. Marnita, is you were the first person who saw me. You were the first person who, before I could complete my sentences, you were so connected to my words, you knew what was coming next. And it took me a year to meet you because people knew us individually and was like, you guys have to meet kind of thing. But it took me a year to come around. But within that year, I needed to experience what I needed to experience in order to understand and value what it meant to be seen, because you gave me that gift first. I think it was a gift that I'd given to people, but no one had ever given it to me. And you gave me that gift. And from there, I understood, oh, this is what I do for people. So again, like the lady told me that you're a makeup artist. When I met you, you helped me understand, like, oh, I'm a seer. And you gave me permission to see. So if anyone is working on their identity and they want to say that who I am is not just good enough, it's damn good. Allow yourself permission to be seen.
And on that note, we are done. Thank you again for watching. I am Dr. Marnita on fire with P3 Purposepreneur. And Purposepreneurs, we are pattern makers, and pattern makers are move makers. Until our next conversation, y'all take care. And we are glad to have had an opportunity to have you here. So,
Absolutely.
goodbye.